This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Man dies following 3-vehicle crash on Melrose Bypass. A man has died after being injured in a crash along the Melrose Bypass in Manchester this morning. The crash, which happened at about 10 a.m., involved a motorbike, a motorcar, and a bus. The circumstances surrounding how the crash happened are yet to be ascertained. However, the police say information gathered so far indicated that the male motorcyclist as well as the car were traveling east along the road while the bus was traveling in the opposite direction. All three collided. The man was among the crash victims. The deceased, whose identity is being withheld by the police pending further investigation, is said to be of a Trelawney address. The conditions of the other car victims have not yet been determined. Portland police scour communities in search for 9-year-old. The search for St. Thomas' 9-year-old Felicia Prusia, who is suspected to have been abducted, has expanded to Portland. Investigators in the parish have been conducting operations in several communities such as Long Pond, Manchonil, Hector's River, and Long Bay. Earlier, a search mission was launched by the police in Bath, St. Thomas, where the young girl lived with her family. The exercise is also being used to locate Davian Brown, who has been named by the police as a suspect in the disappearance. Commanding officer for the Portland Police Division, Superintendent Kenneth Chin, indicated that Brown, who is of a Bath St. Thomas address, is out on bail on a charge of illegal possession of a firearm. As a condition of his bail, the police said that Brown was ordered by the court to report to the authorities in St. Thomas twice weekly. The 9-year-old was reportedly abducted from her home in Bath, St. Thomas on Wednesday evening. The police say CCTV footage obtained from the area shows the girl being escorted by an unidentified male. She has not been heard from since then. She was subsequently reported missing by her mother the following day. Felicia is of brown complexion, slim-built, and about 4 feet 6 inches tall. At the time of her disappearance, she was reported as wearing a white blouse and blue shorts. Davina files police report of alleged abuse. Recording artist Davina, the daughter of reggae star Tony Rebel, filed a report at the Constant Spring Police Station on Friday about her alleged abuse. It was a very professional experience this time, and I must applaud the JCF on how professional, victim-centered, and smooth the process was this time. My trauma was not trivialized. I just wanted to feel that the system worked for someone like me. I really want to break out of this cycle of abuse, and this is the first step in that direction, she told the news. A female officer took her statement. Over the last weekend, a video was posted of the emerging artist wearing a bloody t-shirt. The camera panned down to show numerous drops of blood on the floor. She captioned the scene with an ominous ready-to-go triggering rumors that the video was a failed suicide attempt and a jarring cry for help. I'm just sick of being abused mentally and physically. I'm tired. I have to be brave and strong and positive all the time, and I'm just tired. I'm just here for people to use and abuse, because if that's my role in life, I definitely don't want it anymore. I had enough and I'm just ready to go now. I'm ready, she wrote. The post sent shockwaves to her fans on Sunday, who were worried that the video reflected a suicide attempt. However, the video was reportedly one of a previous attack that took place 5 months ago, during which her nose was broken. It triggered online discussions of Davina's controversial personal life, which has often overshadowed her music. PSAJ says vaccination efforts should not be politicized. The private sector organization of Jamaica says Jamaica's vaccination efforts should not be politicized. The call follows the declaration by the People's National Party that it is against the vaccination mandates. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has said he will announce the government's decisions regarding COVID-19 vaccine requirements when he completes his vaccination tour across Jamaica. The PSAJ says if a unified approach is not agreed on, Jamaica's economic recovery could be in jeopardy. The PSAJ argued that with less than 20% of the country fully or partially vaccinated, Jamaica's COVID-19 vaccination program has underperformed. It said the prospect of the country reaching its target of having 65% of the population inoculated by March 2022 against the COVID-19 is also waning. The private sector body noted that with 54% of the population indicating they are not willing to take the vaccine at this time, the government, private sector, and the civil society are grappling with how, if and when a mandate should be introduced. It has therefore called for the opposition and the government to jointly determine and inform the country of a common position on a national COVID-19 vaccine policy. As for public sector workers, the PSAJ said the government must begin the introduction of vaccine workplace policies to keep its workforce and the general public, which it serves, as safe as possible. UIC gives businesses until 5 p.m. today to state position on COVID jab. Jamaica's third political party, the United Independence Congress, wants businesses to say by 5 p.m. today whether they will implement restricted movements and services to unvaccinated. In a flyer being distributed on social media, the party warned the financial institutions, supermarket chains, hardware stores, restaurants, and the service providers that 85% of Jamaicans locally and abroad will boycott these businesses if this is not done. UIC President Joseph Patterson said one of the aims of the move is to see which companies are willing to free Jamaica from medical apartheid. He said any business seeking to restrict Jamaicans, then Jamaicans will restrict them, and anyone who encourages everyone, then everyone will work with them. We are planning to generate a list at 5 a.m. on Sunday, October 17, of the companies that we will be instructing Jamaicans to boycott, the party said. Please indicate on your social media post and other public-facing communication channels the words "all are welcome" if you wish to be excluded from that list. The group said the boycott will start on Heroes Day on Monday, adding that members of the diaspora have indicated a keen interest in the banks and their positions. $185 million in COVID fines. Nearly $185 million in fines have been imposed on persons by judges across the island for various breaches of the Disaster Risk Management Act. Data from the Court Administration Division indicate that the fines were imposed between March last year and June 2021. During that period, 8,028 persons were brought before the courts for breaches of the DRMA, of which 75 were placed in custody for non-payment of fines. However, the information released to the news by the CAD has not taken into account the huge fines being imposed by judges in some courts in recent times. Additionally, the number of persons who have been locked up for breaching the DRMA has skyrocketed since Parliament amended the law that removed the requirement for the police to warn persons before proceeding to make an arrest. The police recently published data that more than 18,000 persons were charged with various breaches of the DRMA between March 2020 to September 2021. A whopping $4.6 million was collected in fines for breaches of the DRMA in Morant Bay, St. Thomas on September 22. On that day, just more than 70 persons were brought before the court for various breaches of the DRMA, which is the main legislation being used to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of the persons were hit with fines as high as $200,000 for failing to wear masks in public places. Chief Parish Court Judge Chester Crooks has defended the hefty fines imposed on persons who were found guilty of failing to wear a mask in public, arguing that a strong message must be sent. Jamaica receives another shipment of Astrazeneca vaccine. Jamaica has received another shipment of the Astrazeneca vaccine. More than 100,000 doses of the medicine donated by the German government arrived earlier this week. A shipment of 300,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine purchased by the Jamaican government is due at the end of the month. Jamaica has spent US $14.7 million to purchase 2 million doses of the one-shot vaccine. OUR issues a cease and desist order to JPS amid a widespread community outage. The Office of the Utilities Regulation has directed the Jamaica Public Service Company Limited to immediately cease and desist the operation of its Transformer Protection Program pilot project, which has been causing wide-scale complaints of frequent and prolonged restrictions in electricity services in affected communities for prolonged periods. JPS is also prohibited from taking any similar actions in any other communities across the island effective October 15, 2021. The OUR has directed that JPS's Transformer Protection Program pilot project be suspended for 90 days in the first place from 2021 October 15 to allow the OUR to complete its investigations and publish its findings. The OUR is of the view that given the expanse of the pilot, the frequency and the duration of the outages complained of, there is a real risk that paying customers will be deprived of adequate and reliable electricity as required by the JPS license obligations. Failure by JPS to comply with the directive within the time period specified will render it liable to enforcement against pursuant to Section 9 of the OUR Act. The OUR's decision follows complaints received since 2021 July about prolonged power outages in several communities, with reports of many occurring daily. The OUR wrote to JPS requesting information as part of its investigation into the complaints. According to the OUR, JPS responded on October 4, apprising the OUR for the first time of the implementation of what it terms its Transformer Protection Program pilot project. The response also gave an indication of the nature and the extent of the curtailment of service that has significantly affected JPS's paying customers in approximately 88 communities. The information suggests that the outages are more widespread in sections of St. Catherine, Kingston and St. Andrew South, Kingston and St. Andrew North, Clarendon and St. James. The OUR says it is against all forms of electricity theft, which has impacted the provision of economical and adequate electricity services, and remains mindful of JPS's obligations to take steps to ensure the reliability, adequacy, safety, and efficiency of the service that it provides to the public. The OUR has not approved any policy or measure that would see the use of outages imposed on legitimate customers as a means to control electricity losses. Therefore, there is the recognition that in the bid to control electricity losses, there is also an imperative to protect the rights and legitimate expectations of paying customers in respect of the utility company's obligation to minimize service interruptions to the extent practicable and economical, manage well any interruptions, for example, notification to customers, and restore service after an interruption within the shortest practicable time. 264 new COVID-19 cases, 13 more deaths. Jamaica has recorded 13 more COVID-19 deaths, increasing the tally to 2,072. The deceased are as follows: from Kingston and St. Andrew, an 80-year-old woman, a 55-year-old man, a 96-year-old man, and an 84-year-old man. From St. Elizabeth, a 49-year-old woman, a 74-year-old woman, a 65-year-old woman, and an 87-year-old woman. From St. Catherine, an 81-year-old woman and a 29-year-old man. From St. James, a 30-year-old woman. From St. Mary, a 17-year-old man. And from St. Thomas, a 75-year-old man. The Ministry of Health says the deaths occurred between September 14 and October 13, and 4 more fatalities are under investigation, moving that figure to 323. Meanwhile, there were 264 new cases, with ages ranging from 53 days to 93 years, pushing the total to 86,986, with 29,232 being active. Of the new cases, 153 are women and 111 are men. The parish breakdown is as follows: St. Catherine 84, Kingston and St. Andrew 55, St. Anne 30, St. James 20, St. Mary 20, Portland 13, Trelawney 10, St. Thomas 9, St. Elizabeth 9, Clarendon 8, Manchester 3, Hanover 2, and Westmoreland 1. A total of 1,557 tests were conducted. The country's positivity rate stands at 20.1%. In the meantime, there were 187 more recoveries, increasing the total to 55,082. Some 393 persons are in hospital, with 99 being moderately ill, 40 severely ill, and 24 critically ill. 6 persons are in government quarantine, while 34,965 are at home. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.